Good evening, you're with News Review. This week, the Chief Minister confirmed in Parliament that Gibraltar could join the customs union as part of a differentiated solution in the Brexit withdrawal agreement, meaning it would be more European than the UK. Fabian Picardo opened the session on Thursday with a government statement updating the House on the protocol for Gibraltar. This, he said, is almost complete, with 5 sets of practical arrangements still to be finalised. These include the rights of citizens, the environment, police and customs cooperation, trade in tobacco and a tax treaty, which would correct misunderstandings over Gibraltar's tax system. There's no change in respect of Gibraltar's airport. The Chief Minister also reflected on the positive approach to negotiations by the Spanish government and expressed optimism about the opportunities Brexit could bring, not only to Gibraltar, but to the whole Campo region.
The Chief Minister said a fairly final protocol on Gibraltar, that's between the United Kingdom and the European Union, is not yet finalised, but there are not many points outstanding. Quoting the Spanish Foreign Minister, Josep Borrell, who said the negotiations were almost closed, Fabian Picardo said there was genuine reason for optimism in that there's no longer any question mark over Gibraltar's inclusion in any implementation period, nor any more talk of vetoes. He confirmed that beyond the protocol, there were a number of practical arrangements to be included in various memoranda of understanding. These, the Chief Minister said, would reflect cooperation in areas both sides had agreed as irritants, namely the rights of citizens, the environment, police and customs cooperation, trade in tobacco and a tax treaty. Mr. Picardo said a large measure of agreement on the substance of the memoranda had already been reached. On the airport, however, there was no change.
We have not found the PSOE government of Spain prepared to move to implement the arrangements agreed in Cordoba by the former PSOE government of Spain in this respect. The government of Gibraltar takes the view that the Gibraltar side has complied with its obligations under the Cordoba Agreement, and we are ready to see it come into effect. Mr. Speaker, there will be no change or progress in respect of enhanced use in relation to Gibraltar Airport.
The Chief Minister reiterated Gibraltar would never compromise its sovereignty, jurisdiction or control, and in answer to a question put to him by Daniel Feetham, expanded on the opportunities for Gibraltar's future relationship with the EU, including possibly joining the customs union if the commercial price was right.
The government is also, in parallel, working towards a potential situation where Gibraltar has a permanent deal that may provide Gibraltar with more European Union than the UK desires for itself.
There may be the opportunity, which we have sought from the beginning, to have what I have termed a differentiated solution for Gibraltar. I think the choice to stay out of the customs union was absolutely the right one in 1972. I've said on a number of occasions already that I don't know whether it is the right conclusion in 2020 or 21 when we leave the European Union at the end of an implementation period. At that time, the view might be, and I think it's a view that I hope we will take together in this House, Mr. Speaker, or indeed in a future iteration of this House after the next general election, that the right conclusion might be that we have membership in some way, shape or form of the Common Customs Union and have access to it. Or it may not be, because there will be 2 sides to the coin. Some will think that they can set a price for that. And if it is a commercial price, well, Mr. Speaker, that's what nations negotiate about, and that's how you adjust your markets, and you do so in the way that is most sensible for your people.
Fabian Picardo stressed Gibraltar was still to make decisions in respect of what differentiated solutions it would seek. However, he said the frontier didn't just represent a commercial value, but also a human one. The Chief Minister said the implementation period would give the ROC the opportunity to negotiate a future that would be of mutual benefit and prosperity to the whole region. Brexit, however, wasn't the only subject on everyone's minds.
I think the whole House will want to join me in congratulating the Gibraltar Football Association for their magnificent home win on Tuesday evening against Liechtenstein, their 2nd successive win in the UEFA Cup of Nations, and a moment, Mr. Speaker, of utter joy that propelled me to hug the person next to me when the whistle was blown, and it happened to be my predecessor as Chief Minister. So the magic of football, Mr. Speaker, knows absolutely no bounds.
Parliament will meet again on the 8th of November.
Also this week, Theresa May announced that she could consider a longer transition period as a way to unlock Brexit negotiations. Speaking at a meeting of EU leaders in Brussels, the Prime Minister said intensive work is still needed to overcome differences on the Irish border. With no breakthrough in negotiations, it was decided that insufficient progress had been made to warrant calling a one-off summit in November for a divorce deal to be signed. However, the Prime Minister is likely to meet strong resistance from Brexiteers on an extension to the transition period, given that it would mean that Britain won't leave the EU until the end of 2021, during which time it would have to abide by EU rules but have no say in them. Keith Asopardi says there's consensus within the GSD for new legislation relating to abortion that does not exceed the limited exceptions identified by the UK Supreme Court. Anything beyond that, he says, should be put to a referendum. The GSD leader also maintains that there are different opinions on the abortion issue within the GSD executive.
The starting point is that the government is saying one thing in the command paper, that it wants to legislate only for limited exceptions, but actually is doing something completely different and proposing something different when you actually analyse the law. When you actually analyse the draft legislation that is annexed to the command paper, it in effect is almost word for word proposing the UK law on abortion, which is completely different to what it is saying. So it is a massive misrepresentation to Parliament and of the people of Gibraltar. We think that is disgraceful. We think there has to be a clear and honest debate, a good debate on this issue, this very difficult issue, and the command paper says one thing but then proposes something different.
So you call this dishonest. Basically, you're saying the command paper proposes one thing, the legislation proposes another. You're also saying it's rammed through. But realistically, this is a command paper, which is an invitation for the different voices to be heard and debate this.
Well, we think there should be a proper debate, but a proper debate has to be done on the basis of honest consultation. In other words, I'm proposing to legislate for limited exceptions, and you would expect to see a law proposing a carefully drafted, narrow, limited exceptions. If that was so, then the GSD parliamentary team would support something that modernizes the law to make it constitutionally compliant to deal with the exceptions that the UK Supreme Court highlighted, which are that the law should reflect the ability to do so in cases of rape, incest, and fatal fetal abnormality. In fact, this is not what the government are proposing. In the draft legislation, they are proposing a UK-style law on abortion, which in effect has become, and everybody knows has become, abortion on demand in the United Kingdom, where 98% of the abortions in the UK are done under this general, more liberal law, and 90% of the abortions take place under 13 weeks. So in effect, when you're talking about a threshold of 14, 12 or 10 weeks, the government is proposing to deliver almost the same law as in England.
You call the government command paper a politically dishonest presentation of its proposal. This might surprise many. The GSD back in September did say the party would meet and come up with a party policy on this issue. The GSD is yet to announce its position.
No, but that is our position. You see, our position is, if this was a narrowly drafted law to deal only with the limited exceptions that the UK Supreme Court identified, rape, incest, fatal fetal abnormality, we would support it. But this is not what this draft legislation is about. This is a complex matter where there are different views around the GSD party executive table. The consensus would not be to go beyond the limited exceptions, but we consider that this is an issue which is important enough for the society of Gibraltar to speak and to do so in a referendum.
This is quite a divisive subject, perhaps one that the government and opposition should work together on for the better of Gibraltar?
Well, you know, it's up to the government to reach out to the opposition to work together on issues that it is planning. We've offered that on Brexit, and we would have no difficulty if the government were to reach out to us to discuss issues like this with them.
And former GSD government minister Jaime Neto has resigned from the party, accusing it of acting against the well-being of women in Gibraltar on the abortion debate. Reacting to Mr. Neto's resignation, GSD leader Keith Asopardi said there's room in the party for all views, adding the issue is not going to divide them. Meanwhile, the government has said it will extend the consultation period on the command paper on abortion in response to a request from the bishop. Speaking to GBC, Fabian Picardo called on the opposition to come forward with serious proposals to provide solutions that are deliverable. The Chief Minister believes it's legally impossible to give effect to the Supreme Court decision while limiting abortions to rape and incest, saying this will result in women being forced to claim rape in order to qualify for an abortion. Christine Vasquez first put to him the GSD's allegations that the government is misrepresenting Parliament and ramming through legislation not included in the command paper.
Well, I think it's a demonstration of a massive misunderstanding on the part of the opposition, of the pro-abortion GSD, because that is the position they have now clearly taken, of what it is that the government intends to do in this command paper. The idea that the GSD is putting out there, the pro-abortion GSD is putting out there, is that somehow we are going beyond the remit of the requirements of the United Kingdom Supreme Court decision. And nothing could be further from the truth, or at least we're not hiding what we're doing in that respect, because specifically in the context of the command paper, we have added 2 limbs in square brackets, one in respect of fatal fetal abnormality and the other in respect of a birth with serious disabilities. And we've said, what does the community feel about these two? So for Keitha Sopaldi and the pro-abortion GSD now to say that we're somehow trying to go beyond that and trying to pull the wool over people's eyes in that respect, when we have specifically in our command paper sought views in that respect, I think is an attempt to pretend to be something they're not. And that's why I think this is just the GSD attempting to camouflage themselves as if they were a pro-life group when they're not. All they're talking about, and I'm pleased for the engagement, is that we should look together at what the parameters of the law finally put before Parliament is. That's why we didn't publish a bill at this stage and we published a command paper. Instead of cooperating, they have decided to come out fighting us. I invite them and I stretch out the hand of political friendship and political cooperation
Chief
to
Minister,
work with us to tell us how they think the law should be improved, which is presently in draft, or changed, because we have given this a lot of thought. So let's see what the pro-abortion GSD tell us are the changes that we need to make.
with all due respect, Chief Minister, it doesn't seem like a genuine reach out when you've labelled the party the pro-abortion GSD. You've said it 3 times already and 6 times in your press release.
It is a genuine reach out to understand. Look, Keitha Sopaldi is a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, to understand as lawyers how he says the law should change. But what I'm not going to do is allow the GSD to pretend that it is anything other than pro-abortion in this debate. Now, what they are saying is that they would limit and narrow the ambit of the law that is finally published before it goes to Parliament. And I'm saying, well, how would you do that? There are 3 issues here. There is the issue of fatal fetal abnormality versus serious disability. There is the issue of rape and the issue of incest. Now, if you create a law that talks about the ability to have an abortion when there is an allegation of rape, in my view, all you're going to do is you're going to create many false allegations of rape, some of whom may identify an alleged attacker and might, if they are not seen to be true in the end, lead to somebody's life having been ruined as a result of a false accusation of rape. And if the finding of rape is then found not to have been well-founded, there has been an abortion based on that. So you create a circularity which is very, very difficult in law to reconcile. And what I'm saying in that respect, which is deeply important and that this community needs to confront and understand, is that for the past 30-odd years, Gibraltar, through its Gibraltar Health Authority, has been testing those who have wanted the tests for serious disabilities, and then has been offering, in other words, approving, supporting and funding abortions where the pregnant couple, where there has been a finding of a potential serious disability on birth, have decided that they want to go ahead and have an abortion. We have specifically said in our command paper, this goes beyond the judgment, but we want to hear the views of the community because the GSD, the GSLP, all political parties, but in particular Ministers for Health, therefore Keitha Sopaldi, have been approving, supporting and funding abortions on this basis. Now, do we simply stick our heads in the sand like ostriches and pretend that that was not happening, which is the attitude that the GSD is taking today, although they have said specifically to GBC that they are pro-abortion and they're just looking at whether they narrow the parameters or not? And what I'm saying to them is, come forward with your recommendations so that I understand legally. Let's leave the politics of this to one side and see how you would make those changes. And yet they haven't done so. All they've wanted is a combative exchange. Everybody else, however passionately they feel about these things, has actually submitted their views in the consultation. I encourage them to do so. I offer them the hand of political friendship in understanding their views legally and see whether we can do this in a more sensitive and a more structured way than just going at each other politically.
And we'll be back with more of this week's stories after this short break.
So now, so new, so good, so you, so ripe, so ready, so overly due, so funny, so cool, so fancy, so fit, so blasting, so lasting, so strictly legit, so movie, so prime, so slick, so swoon, so Disney, so Deezer, so light up the room, so what, so epic, so out of the box, so on demand, so ready to rock, so true, so woo, so all the night through, so Sophie, so monster, you know what to do. Whew. Sophie Digital Entertainment System is now included as part of your Monster Bundle or available exclusively for Jib Telecom broadband customers from only £10 a month. So apply now in store or at sophie.gi. Terms and conditions apply. Oh, that rhymes.
Welcome back to News Review. This week, the Civic Society platform led by Marlene Hassan Naon voted to become a political party and contest the next general election. 63 members voted in favour of the move and 13 against at an EGM held on Thursday.
I myself was torn for a while because I was very happy about the fact that we created a grassroots, open civil society platform. But the situation realistically is that we are a year away from an election, and I have to move on into a party structure myself. And many of the volunteers and activists who have been part of the movement are wishing also to move on to a party structure. So because there was a clamour for a new party, and because many of the Together members and activists were calling for a new party, and because most importantly, on the day that I started this movement, I said that any moves further from a movement would be consulted with the membership. I felt that the decent and responsible and democratic thing to do would be to bring this out to the membership for a vote. And I'm really pleased that that whatever way the vote has come, it has been an overwhelming majority, because that way we know we have a clear mandate to proceed in a party structure which will benefit not only the members who have supported the movement, but of course Gibraltar's community as a whole.
You identified an appetite. The movement's been running for a year or so. No party wins an election. Do you identify other reasons? Is the time right?
I think there are many reasons. Like I said in my viewpoint a couple of weeks ago, I think that the political cycle of the governing party will be on its way down, as most political cycles tend to be after the second and third term. I think that the current official opposition is very fractured and divided and directionless, and they say that a third party never gets in, but that's not technically true. We have examples in our own local political history to show that that is not the case. Third parties have come in. The current official opposition was once a third party. Giovosano was once a third party. But it's all about timing. And because I believe that Gibraltar needs a new way of doing politics, a way that is more connected, that is more engaged, and that is more horizontal with the people. A new direction of politics. I believe that it is the perfect time to provide the electorate with a new program for government, which is in terms of vision and in terms of style and substance as well.
So parliamentary reform perhaps forming one of those things that your new party would be addressing. What other things would Marlene's new party be offering?
We have a very strong agenda on environment. We want to make sure that the environment features very heavily in the future and in our manifesto. We want to also feature transparency and accountability, good practices. We also have a very strong and keen interest on the topic of our aging population.
We've seen a number of people, a number of key people as well involved with your movement. Have you already identified those candidates?
There are many candidates, several candidates who have expressed an interest, but for now what we want to do is get those potential candidates and sit round an executive, develop a charter, which obviously we need, solidify our vision, solidify the policies, and once we're ready with that, we will come out and showcase who these people are.
The Finance Centre Council has written to the Financial Services Commission Board raising concerns over Samantha Barris's appointment to PwC UK's public interest body. In answer to GBC questions, the board chairman said the process leading up to her appointment was thorough and any potential conflicts of interest will be mitigated. Jonathan Spencer said the move will be beneficial for her, the Commission and Gibraltar.
Gibraltar's regulator, Samantha Barris, told GBC in August that her appointment onto PwC UK's public interest body would not present any conflicts of interest. But the move drew criticism from opposition MP Daniel Feetham, who called it inappropriate given that PwC is a licensed entity in Gibraltar. GBC also revealed last month that PwC UK and its Gibraltar offices received substantially more fees, both directly and indirectly, from the Commission in respect of professional services. Now GBC has learned the Finance Centre Council has written a letter to Jonathan Spencer, the chairman of the Financial Services Commission, asking for details of what information had been disclosed to him before approving Ms Barris's appointment and whether this had been made available to the entire board. GBC understands the council, which consists of representatives from all of Gibraltar's financial services industry associations, unanimously backed the letter to Jonathan Spencer, which questions whether the PwC appointment could cause any conflicts of interest. GBC contacted the chairman of the board for comment. Dr. Spencer told us it's a significant appointment for Ms Barris, a reflection of the high esteem with which she is held both in Gibraltar and the UK. He said such appointments are not made lightly, and there's a thorough and robust process here and in the UK. Dr. Spencer said the possible appointment was considered fully by the GFSC board prior to Ms Barris accepting the role. He said the potential conflicts of interest are obvious and all relevant matters were fully considered. The board chairman told GBC auditor regulation is only one of the many roles the FSC deals with. He said the Commission has taken entirely appropriate steps to deal with a perceived conflict, and Ms Barris recused herself from that role. According to Dr. Spencer, Ms Barris's appointment is an important one for Gibraltar generally, as it's rare for a locally based executive to be invited to such a prestigious role. He said Ms Barris, the Commission and Gibraltar should benefit very much from the experience she'll gain in the role.
This week was a historic one for Gibraltar football, a week in which Gibraltar beats Liechtenstein 2-1 on Tuesday to claim their second ever competitive UEFA win. The visitors scored the only goal of the first half, but Gibraltar's footballers fought back in the second, with forwards George Cabrera heading in to make it 1-1, before Liam Walker corner was headed in by Joseph Cipollina. It was a nervous finale, but Gibraltar held on for a memorable win in front of the 2,000 fans at the Victoria Stadium. The 3 points in the UEFA Nations League came just days after beating Armenia. The General Secretary of the Gibraltar FA, Denis Peso, has praised the players and the head coach. In court this week, a man has been remanded in custody after having been arrested by the Royal Gibraltar Police in connection with the Harbourview's industrial estate robbery in June of last year. Badrat Charki, a 35-year-old locally resident Moroccan national, was arrested as a result of the RGP's ongoing investigation into the robbery at the New Harbour's industrial estate. A substantial amount of money was reported stolen. A second man was also arrested in connection with the robbery. The 35-year-old was granted police bail pending further inquiries. And the local street dealer has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for possession and intent to supply cocaine, as well as driving whilst disqualified. 30-year-old Ernest Peralta was arrested in November of last year after an off-duty police officer spotted him driving a motorcycle following a ban for dangerous driving.
Peralta was caught with the drugs after the off-duty police officer alerted his colleagues that he'd seen him driving to a restaurant whilst disqualified. When searched, 8 wrappers of cocaine were found in his possession, totalling 5.48 grams with a street value of £330. He was also found to be carrying bundles of cash worth over £1,000. He was bailed and later failed to surrender to police, handing himself in voluntarily 5 months later, which led to him being charged with absconding. His defence lawyer claimed he was dealing to friends, but Chief Justice Anthony Dudley told the court that, in his judgment, the number of wrappers and the amount of cash found on him belied that argument, and he'd be sentencing on the basis that he was a street dealer. Mr. Justice Dudley noted his early guilty pleas, but also said the defendant's numerous previous convictions for drug and driving offences were an aggravating factor in this case. He was handed 2 months for driving whilst disqualified, with a 3-year, 4-month sentence for intent to supply the drugs, to be served consecutively, giving Peralta a total of 3.5 years in prison. No separate penalty was given for absconding.
The latest works by local artist Christian Hook are selling for up to £250,000. He's unveiled his latest collection, Expedition, at the Clarendon Fine Art Gallery in London's Mayfair. At the opening, Christian told GBC the build-up to this latest exhibition was difficult, but he says he's very happy with the end result. James Niche reports from London.
Portraits that capture a unique sense of movement in only a way Christian Hook can. At the official opening, guests enjoyed a first look at a collection that's been a year in the making. This latest exhibition brings together 3 of Christian's passions: the figure, horses and Japan.
It feels amazing. We've been working really hard for a year, for this event, and I've had a lot of new ideas. I've travelled very much to get a concept for this, and it's all come to fruition, and I'm really happy with the results.
Just tell us about this theme and those travels on which you've based a lot of these paintings.
Well, I went to Asia to find something spiritual or something, some physical proof of channeling of energy and all that. And I went to about 23 countries. I didn't find really anything until I got to Japan. And there I found a master calligrapher where I learned how to pass chi down onto the work.
The Clarendon Gallery is situated in Mayfair, London's premier gallery district. It's very exclusive, hosting an average of 12 solo exhibitions every year. Here, the name Hook has become a household favourite. Christian has also recently been the opening speaker at the Althorp Literary Festival, where he was invited to exhibit in the house's magnificent Tudor picture gallery.
Honestly, there aren't any words. From the moment I met him in Gibraltar, all those years ago, where he was doing exceptionally well, to the moment he came to Mayfair, where we gave him his first solo show, to winning Sky Arts Portrait Artist of the Year, to looking at his paintings in the National Galleries of Scotland, to be named in the top 100 Masters by Sir John Layton is a huge honour. And now we've just done Althorp with Lord Spencer, taking down the Van Dycks to hang up the Christian Hooks. You can't get better than that.
Collectors, fans, family and friends gathered for the opening. The artist wanted to add a spiritual energy to his work. Energy in every sense, which has not gone unnoticed.
I'm blown away. I'm absolutely blown away.
A whole new style in my point. It's a lot more colourful than I've seen in the past.
It's just more different, it's just more colour from last time, but it's good to see.
Yeah, it's a nice theme. The Oriental theme is quite interesting. Yeah, like you said, it's different to what he's done before, so it's cool to see.
The admiration for his work turns into successful sales. This is one of the pieces which has already sold at a record price for the artist, £250,000.
I would have never dreamt of that, but it's happened, and we've had a lot of the build-up towards it has been, it's been very difficult. It's not just painting at home, there has to be like a concept behind the work every year. There's a lot of research done, there's a lot of new techniques, new materials, new everything. So it's, it's not as easy as it looks. You know, it's a lot of work.
The exhibition at Clarendon will continue for another 2 weeks.
Rich and complex, fascinating and intimate. That's how Christian Hook's exhibition here at Clarendon is being described, and some of the paintings selling for as much as £250,000. It's a price tag that reflects not only Christian Hook's talent, but also his growing popularity in London and internationally. James Niche for GBC News in London.
And that's all for News Review this week. You can find our stories in full on our website, gbc.gi, and you can also follow our regular updates on our Twitter and Facebook page. Thank you for watching. From the team, good night.